Imagine waking up to a frozen greenhouse, your plants lifeless after a bitter winter night. While most rely on costly heating systems, the Amish keep their greenhouses thriving without gas or electricity. What's their secret? Let's explore how their time-tested methods can keep your plants warm, naturally and sustainably. The Amish understand that the sun is the most dependable way to heat a greenhouse. It's free, consistent, and has worked well for as long as we can remember. But they don't just sit back and hope for the best. They've learned how to make the most of natural sunlight, using it efficiently to keep their greenhouses warm and thriving. The first step in their strategy is placement. Their greenhouses are always positioned to face south, making the most of the sun's natural journey across the sky. Why south? In the northern hemisphere, the sun spends most of its time sweeping across the southern horizon. It's like nature has drawn a map, and the Amish are simply following the route. By facing their greenhouses in this direction, they ensure they're capturing sunlight from dawn to dusk, maximizing every bit of warmth the sun has to offer. But it doesn't stop at where the greenhouse is placed. It's also about how it's built. The Amish use clear glass or high-quality plastic for the walls and roof, creating a structure that acts like a giant magnifying glass. This design lets sunlight pour in and traps heat inside, like wrapping the greenhouse in an invisible blanket of warmth. It's a simple idea, but the results are powerful. Even on cold days, the interior stays toasty enough to keep plants thriving. And here's where the Amish really shine. They think about the sun's behavior in winter. During the colder months, the sun hangs lower in the sky, and its rays can feel weak compared to summer's intense heat. To work around this, many Amish greenhouses feature angled roofs. These aren't just for looks, they're specifically designed to catch those lower rays, ensuring the plants inside get as much warmth as possible. It's like tilting a solar panel just right to soak up every drop of energy. But even the sun has its limits. When it sets, temperatures drop fast, and all that heat can vanish into the chilly night air. That's where the Amish pull out one of their most clever tricks: thermal curtains. These thick, insulating coverings are drawn across the greenhouse's interior as soon as the sun goes down. Imagine tucking your greenhouse in for the night under a giant quilt. The curtains trap the day's heat, keeping it inside where it belongs and ensuring the plants stay cozy until morning. And it's not just about keeping the warmth in, it's also about making sure no sunlight goes to waste. Even on overcast days, Amish greenhouses are designed to make the most of what little light is available. They use reflective materials like aluminum panels or even simple white paint on the interior walls. These surfaces bounce sunlight around, making sure every corner of the greenhouse benefits from the natural light. It's like turning the whole space into a bright, glowing box where every photon gets put to work. Now you might be thinking, what about ventilation? After all, a greenhouse that's too warm or too humid can be just as harmful as one that's too cold. The Amish know this too, which is why their greenhouses include vents that can be opened during the day to let in fresh air. This keeps the environment balanced: warm but not stuffy, fresh but not chilly. At night, the vents are sealed shut to lock in all that hard-earned warmth. It's a delicate balancing act, but one they've perfected over generations. For anyone looking to adopt these methods, the process is surprisingly simple. Start by choosing the right spot for your greenhouse. Make sure it faces south and is free from shadows cast by trees, buildings, or fences. Use clear materials like glass or polycarbonate for the walls and roof to let in as much sunlight as possible. If you're building or upgrading your greenhouse, consider adding angled roofs to better catch the sun's rays, especially in winter. And don't forget about insulation. Adding thermal curtains is one of the easiest ways to hold on to the warmth your greenhouse collects during the day. These can be made from heavy fabric or reflective thermal sheets and are simple enough to DIY. Just pull them across the greenhouse at night, and you'll be amazed at how much warmer it stays. Another tip: dark-colored materials like black barrels or dark soil can act as natural heat collectors. When placed in sunny spots, they absorb heat during the day and release it slowly as temperatures drop. It's like creating a series of mini radiators inside your greenhouse, boosting its overall warmth. The beauty of the Amish approach lies in its simplicity. They don't rely on complicated gadgets or high-tech systems. Instead, they work with nature using time-tested techniques to keep their greenhouses warm and their plants thriving. And the best part? These methods are sustainable, cost-effective, and easy to replicate. So, the next time you see the sun peek through the clouds on a cold day, Think like the Amish. How can you make that sunlight work for you? Whether it's positioning your greenhouse for maximum exposure, adding thermal curtains, or painting a few barrels black, these small changes can make a big difference. The sun has been doing its job for billions of years, and with a little ingenuity, you can harness its power to keep your plants thriving, even in the heart of winter. The Amish have another ace up their sleeve when it comes to keeping their greenhouses warm: thermal mass. Think of it as a heat bank. During the day, it soaks up warmth from the sun, and at night, it slowly releases that heat back into the greenhouse. It's simple, reliable, and doesn't need any wires, switches, or expensive equipment. For the Amish, this isn't just a clever trick. It's a cornerstone of their greenhouse heating system. So, what exactly is thermal mass? It's all about using materials like water, stone, or bricks to absorb heat when it's available and release it when temperatures drop. Imagine sitting by a campfire. The rocks around the fire soak up the heat, and long after the flames die down, those rocks are still warm. That's the same principle at work here, except it's scaled up to keep an entire greenhouse cozy. Take a look inside an Amish greenhouse, and you'll see thermal mass everywhere. Large barrels of water, stone pathways, and brick walls aren't just there for decoration. They're hard at work. Let's start with water barrels. A single 55-gallon drum, painted black and placed in a sunny spot, can hold a surprising amount of heat. During the day, the dark surface absorbs sunlight, warming the water inside. As the temperature drops at night, the barrel releases that stored heat, helping to maintain a stable environment for the plants. It's like having a slow, steady radiator powered entirely by the sun. But water isn't the only player in the game. Stones and bricks are also excellent at storing heat. Many Amish greenhouses feature walkways made of stone or walls lined with brick. These materials serve a dual purpose. They're durable and practical, but they also act as thermal batteries. Some Amish farmers even go a step further by placing heavy stones beneath their planting beds. This setup keeps the soil warm, delivering consistent heat directly to the roots of their crops. It's like tucking the plants into a heated blanket every night. Dark colors are a key detail in this system. Dark surfaces absorb more sunlight than light-colored ones, making them far better at capturing and holding heat. That's why you'll often find barrels painted black or stones in shades of gray or deep brown inside Amish greenhouses. These small choices make a big difference, turning ordinary materials into powerful heat collectors. If you're thinking about trying this at home, it's easier than you might think. Start small by adding a few water barrels to your greenhouse. Paint them black or dark blue for maximum heat absorption and place them along the sunniest walls. You can also add stone or brick pathways or line the base of your greenhouse walls with these materials. Even a handful of stones or a single barrel can make a noticeable difference, especially in smaller greenhouses. The beauty of thermal mass lies in its simplicity. Once it's set up, there's no maintenance, no moving parts, and no additional cost. It just works, quietly and efficiently, using the natural energy of the sun. For the Amish who prefer low-tech, sustainable solutions, it's a perfect fit. And for anyone trying to cut down on heating costs or reduce their reliance on electricity, it's an equally appealing option. Thermal mass isn't just about keeping plants warm, it's about creating a stable environment. Sudden drops in temperature can stress plants, slow their growth, or even kill them. Thermal mass acts as a buffer, smoothing out these fluctuations and providing a consistent, comfortable climate. Think of it like a greenhouse thermostat, but instead of flipping a switch, it works passively through the materials you've placed inside. One of the smartest tricks the Amish use is positioning thermal mass materials strategically. Barrels and stones are often placed near frost-sensitive plants or seedlings, where a little extra warmth can make a big difference. By grouping these materials around the most vulnerable areas, they ensure that the plants that need heat the most get it. It's a small adjustment, but one that shows just how much thought and care goes into their greenhouse design. And here's another benefit. Thermal mass doesn't just help your plants, it helps your wallet too. Studies show that using thermal mass can reduce heating needs in greenhouses by up to 30%. That's a significant savings, especially during the colder months when heating costs tend to skyrocket. It's a win-win. Less reliance on expensive fuel or electricity, and a healthier, more stable environment for your plants. But thermal mass isn't just practical, it's also a philosophy. The Amish are masters of using what's already available, finding value in simple materials that others might overlook. They don't see a water barrel or a pile of stones as just objects. They see them as tools, as partners in creating a sustainable and efficient greenhouse. It's a mindset that's as inspiring as it is effective. So, if you're ready to take a page from the Amish playbook, start by looking around your own greenhouse. Where could you add a water barrel or some stones? How can you position them to make the most of the sun's energy? With a little creativity and a few simple materials, you can harness the power of thermal mass to keep your greenhouse warm and your plants thriving, all without a single electric bill. The Amish have a knack for finding unexpected solutions to everyday problems, and one of their most ingenious greenhouse heating tricks is composting. Yes, that pile of food scraps, leaves, and other organic material sitting in your backyard isn't just a way to make fertilizer, it's also a natural heater. The process of decomposition generates a surprising amount of heat, and the Amish have perfected how to use it to keep their greenhouses warm, even on the coldest nights. So, how does composting generate heat? It all starts with microbes. These tiny workers break down organic matter like fruit peels, grass clippings, and manure, and as they do, they release energy in the form of heat. A well-maintained compost pile can reach internal temperatures of up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to warm your hands on a chilly day. The Amish don't let that heat go to waste. Instead, they harness it to create a natural heating system for their greenhouses. In Amish greenhouses, you'll often find compost piles strategically placed along the walls, or even directly under planting benches. The heat radiates upward, warming the soil and air above. It's like having a hidden heater running quietly in the background, powered entirely by kitchen scraps and garden waste. And because the compost will eventually break down into rich, nutrient-dense soil, this system does double duty, providing both warmth and a steady supply of fertilizer. But here's the thing. Not all compost piles are created equal. The Amish know that getting the right balance of greens and browns is key to maintaining consistent heat. Greens are materials high in nitrogen, like vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and grass clippings. Browns, on the other hand, are carbon-rich materials like dried leaves, straw, and shredded paper. By layering these two types of materials, the Amish create the perfect environment for microbes to thrive and generate heat. Airflow is another crucial factor. Without oxygen, a compost pile can become soggy and start to smell, not exactly what you want inside a greenhouse. To avoid this, the Amish turn their compost regularly, ensuring it stays well aerated. This simple act of flipping the pile keeps the microbes happy and working at full speed, producing plenty of heat to warm the surrounding area. Moisture also plays an important role. If a compost pile is too dry, the microbes slow down and the heat generation drops off. Too wet, and the pile becomes a sloppy mess. The Amish maintain what's often called the Goldilocks zone of moisture, damp but not soggy, by monitoring their piles and adding water as needed. It's this careful balance of ingredients, airflow, and moisture that allows their compost piles to act as reliable heat sources throughout the winter. For those looking to try this method at home, starting a compost pile is easier than you might think. Begin with a mix of greens and browns, layering them like a lasagna. Turn the pile every week or so to keep it aerated, and add water when it starts to feel dry. If you're planning to use compost as a greenhouse heater, consider placing your pile in or near the greenhouse where the heat can have the most impact. A contained compost bin works well for keeping things tidy and manageable. But the Amish don't stop at traditional compost piles. They've taken this concept one step further with what they call hotbeds. A hotbed is essentially a raised planting bed with a layer of compost or manure buried beneath the soil. As the organic material breaks down, it generates heat that rises through the soil, keeping the plants warm from below. For fragile seedlings or frost-sensitive crops, this can make all the difference during cold weather. The Amish often pair hotbeds with cold frames, mini greenhouses that trap sunlight and protect plants from frost, creating a powerful combination of natural heating methods. Another clever application of composting involves using it to heat water. Some Amish greenhouses are equipped with systems where compost piles are placed near water pipes. As the compost generates heat, it warms the water, which can then be used for irrigation or additional heating. It's a simple but brilliant way to get even more out of the composting process. Even gardeners with limited space can benefit from these techniques. A small compost bin placed near potted plants or along the edges of a garden bed can provide localized warmth, protecting vulnerable crops from the chill. The key is positioning the compost where it will have the greatest impact, such as near seedlings or in areas of the greenhouse that tend to lose heat. Manure is a particularly powerful ingredient for compost heating. The Amish often use horse or cow manure as part of their compost mix because it decomposes quickly and generates a lot of heat. However, if you're using manure, it's important to make sure it's well aged or properly composted to avoid introducing pathogens to your plants. When managed correctly, manure adds an extra boost to the compost pile, making it an even more effective heat source. The beauty of this system is that it aligns perfectly with the Amish philosophy of sustainability. Composting turns waste into a valuable resource, reducing the need for external heating while improving the soil. It's a win-win situation that requires nothing more than time, patience, and a good mix of organic materials. So, the next time you're throwing out vegetable scraps or raking up leaves, think about how those materials could be put to better use. With a little effort, you can turn your waste into warmth, just like the Amish have been doing for generations. Not only will your greenhouse stay cozy, but you'll also end up with rich, fertile soil to fuel your garden in the spring. It's sustainable, efficient, and surprisingly easy to do. The Amish have mastered the art of working with nature, and nowhere is that more evident than in how they insulate their greenhouses and protect them from the harsh winter winds. It's not just about generating heat, it's about keeping the heat where it belongs. While most people rely on high-tech insulation materials or expensive equipment, the Amish use simple, natural solutions that are both effective and sustainable. One of their first lines of defense against the cold is the use of windbreaks. Imagine icy winter winds sweeping across an open field, cutting through everything in their path like a knife. Even a well-heated greenhouse would struggle to stay warm under those conditions. The Amish know this, which is why they create natural barriers around their greenhouses. Rows of evergreen trees, dense hedges, or tall shrubs are planted strategically to block these biting gusts. Think of these windbreaks as nature's walls. They don't just stop the wind, but they also create a more stable microclimate around the greenhouse, trapping slightly warmer air and reducing the overall chill factor. But what if you don't have the space or time to grow a line of trees? The Amish have a solution for that too. They use fences or trellises as substitutes, often growing climbing plants like ivy or grapevines to enhance their wind-blocking power. It's a practical way to create a barrier without needing years of growth, and it adds another layer of beauty to the greenhouse's surroundings. Reducing wind speed isn't just about keeping the air still, it's about preventing heat from being stripped away. Studies have shown that a well-placed windbreak can reduce wind speed by up to 50%, which in turn helps the greenhouse retain significantly more heat. The key is positioning the windbreak on the side of the greenhouse that faces the prevailing winter winds. In most areas, that's the north or west side, where cold fronts tend to blow in. For the Amish, this careful placement is just another way they work with nature rather than against it. Once the wind is under control, the next priority is insulation. The Amish don't rely on fancy, high-tech materials to keep their greenhouses warm. They use what's available, and one of their favorite materials is straw. That's right, good old-fashioned straw bales. Stacked tightly around the base of the greenhouse, these bales act as natural insulators. The secret lies in the air pockets within the straw, which trap heat and prevent it from escaping. It's like putting a warm scarf around the foundation of your greenhouse. Straw bales aren't just effective, they're also incredibly practical. They're inexpensive, easy to find, and biodegradable. When winter is over, the bales can be composted or used as mulch, making them a zero-waste solution. And because they're so versatile, the Amish often stack them in multiple layers, or even build temporary walls of straw around particularly vulnerable parts of the greenhouse. It's a simple but powerful way to keep the cold out and the warmth in. But straw isn't the only tool in the Amish insulation arsenal. Many of their greenhouses feature double-layered plastic sheeting on the walls and roofs. This creates an air pocket between the layers, acting as a thermal barrier that slows heat transfer. It's a bit like wearing a jacket with a lining. It's not just the material that keeps you warm, but the layer of trapped air in between. Double-layered plastic is affordable, easy to install, and surprisingly effective at holding onto heat during those long winter nights. Drafts are another sneaky culprit when it comes to losing heat, and the Amish are experts at sealing them off. Heavy fabric curtains, old quilts, or even wool blankets are hung over doors and windows to block any gaps where cold air might sneak in. Weather stripping or draft stoppers are also used to seal the edges of doors, ensuring that every part of the greenhouse is as airtight as possible. It's like giving your greenhouse a snug winter coat, protecting it from the cold outside. Inside the greenhouse, the Amish take insulation one step further by using reflective materials. Aluminum foil, space blankets, or even reflective paint are applied to the interior walls to bounce heat back into the space. This is especially useful on overcast days when sunlight is scarce. By reflecting the heat that would otherwise escape, these materials amplify the greenhouse's warmth, making the most of what little light is available. Another clever Amish trick is the use of partitions to create smaller, warmer zones within the greenhouse. Heavy fabric, straw bales, or wooden panels can be used to section off areas where the most delicate plants are kept. These mini greenhouses within the greenhouse concentrate warmth where it's needed most, ensuring that frost-sensitive crops get extra protection. It's a simple but effective way to prioritize resources and keep every plant in the right environment. The Amish also know that the ground itself can be a source of heat. By insulating the floor of the greenhouse with materials like straw or even thick layers of mulch, they reduce heat loss through the soil. Some even dig shallow trenches around the greenhouse and fill them with stones or gravel, which act as additional thermal mass, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it at night. For anyone looking to adopt these methods, the key is to start with what you have. Stack straw bales around the base of your greenhouse, add double-layered plastic sheeting to the walls, and seal off any drafts with weather stripping or heavy fabric. Even small changes can make a big difference in how well your greenhouse holds onto heat. The beauty of these techniques lies in their simplicity. The Amish don't use complex systems or expensive materials. They rely on timeless principles and natural solutions. By working with the elements instead of fighting against them, they've created greenhouses that are efficient, sustainable, and perfectly suited for winter gardening. And the best part? You can do it too, no matter the size of your greenhouse or budget. The Amish have another secret weapon for keeping their greenhouses productive during the winter. They grow the right crops. While most people think of gardening as a spring or summer activity, the Amish know that some plants actually thrive in the cold. Instead of fighting against the frost, they work with it, selecting hardy crops that can shrug off freezing temperatures and even come out stronger because of it. Take kale, for example. This leafy green is practically made for winter. Not only can it survive frosty conditions, but it actually tastes better after a light freeze. How? When temperatures drop, kale produces more sugars to protect itself, giving it a sweeter, less bitter flavor. It's like nature's way of rewarding you for braving the cold. Spinach is another winter superstar. It can grow even when the thermometer dips near freezing, making it a reliable choice for winter gardening. Then there are root vegetables like carrots and beets, which grow beneath the soil, safely shielded from the harshest conditions. And here's the best part. Just like kale, carrots, and beets get sweeter after a frost, turning a potential problem into a delicious advantage. But growing cold hardy crops is only part of the strategy. The Amish also use succession planting to keep their greenhouses productive all winter long. Succession planting is a simple but brilliant method. Instead of planting all your crops at once, you stagger your planting dates. For example, spinach might be planted in early fall for a late autumn harvest, followed by another round of planting in mid-fall for a midwinter crop. This way, there's always something ready to harvest, no matter the season. It's like having a relay team of crops, each one taking its turn to keep your greenhouse full of fresh produce. Another clever trick the Amish use is companion planting. This involves growing certain plants together in a way that benefits both. For example, onions can be planted near spinach to help deter pests while also creating a natural barrier against cold drafts. These thoughtful combinations make the most of limited space and resources while keeping plants healthier and more resilient. It's a system that works in harmony with nature, just like everything else the Amish do. And it's not just about the plants, it's about where they're placed in the greenhouse. The Amish are strategic when it comes to arranging their crops. Frost-sensitive plants like tender greens or young seedlings are grouped in the warmest areas, often near thermal mass materials like water barrels or along the south-facing walls where sunlight is most abundant. Meanwhile, hardier plants like kale or beets are placed in cooler zones where they can handle the chill without issue. This thoughtful layout ensures that every plant is in the environment best suited to its needs, maximizing productivity while minimizing stress on the crops. To take things a step further, the Amish also use cold frames and hotbeds to extend the growing season. A cold frame is like a mini greenhouse. It's a wooden or metal frame with a clear cover that traps warmth around the plants. Cold frames are perfect for starting seeds early or protecting frost-sensitive crops during particularly cold nights. Hotbeds, on the other hand, take advantage of composting heat. By burying a layer of compost or manure beneath the soil, the Amish create a natural heating system that warms the plants from below. When these two methods are combined, the results are impressive. Even in the dead of winter, delicate crops can survive and thrive. But the Amish don't stop there. They also pay close attention to the spacing of their plants. In colder months, they plant crops closer together than they might in summer. This creates a kind of natural insulation, with the plants protecting each other from the cold. It's a simple adjustment, but it makes a big difference when temperatures drop. And by planting in dense rows, the Amish also make more efficient use of their greenhouse space, ensuring that every square inch is working to its full potential. For those who want to replicate these techniques, the first step is choosing the right crops. Start with cold-hardy vegetables like kale, spinach, carrots, and beets. These are proven performers that can handle the chill and keep producing even when the weather turns frosty. Then think about how to protect and maximize their growth. Adding a cold frame or hotbed is relatively simple and can make a huge difference in maintaining a steady temperature. If you're new to succession planting, try staggering your planting dates by just a few weeks. You'll quickly see how much more productive your greenhouse can be. The beauty of this approach lies in its simplicity. The Amish don't rely on expensive or high-tech solutions to grow crops in winter. Instead, they focus on working with nature, choosing plants that are naturally suited to the cold, and using techniques that make the most of their greenhouse environment. It's a system that's as practical as it is effective, proving that winter gardening doesn't have to be complicated or costly. Harvesting fresh carrots and kale in January is possible with the right strategies. The Amish use natural methods like solar heat, thermal mass, and composting to keep their greenhouses warm year-round. Their techniques prove you don't need electricity or gas to grow food in winter. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love this next one.